I was sick of the narratives told about the sex industry and the stripping industry in mainstream media.
Sexuality is a beautiful part of who we are. And unless we have a good relationship with the sexual part of ourselves, we're never going to be able to heal the whole of ourselves.
We really want this to work no matter what.
Gonna rip our anus like a strike.
I was just watching Frozen 2 and singing Into the Unknown.
Oh shit. How do I know what my path is going to be? Who's going to tell me?
It's Deepak Chopra, 8 billion people, 8 billion paths. And everyone's path is completely different.
Spreading the word of non-sexual pleasurable touch.
Leaving that predictable path, going beyond other people's expectations to follow your own heart song.
No, don't you dare say that about the church.
It hasn't always been the most welcoming to me, my experience.
I'm Paul Von Bergen, the host of Radical Expansion. This podcast is about giving you the tools and the wisdom to radically expand your life with such heart-centered spiritual meaning that when it comes to your final breath, you'll have a little cheeky smile on your face and complete peace of mind. I have helped over 35,000 people expand their lives at my Sydney Healing Centre, Billabong Retreat, and am now bringing this invaluable experience to you through my understanding of ancient wisdom combined with modern science. I will share the simple and highly effective practices to manifest big creative expansion, great abundance, and fun and pleasure beyond even your wildest dreams. Enjoy.
Welcome to Radical Expansion with PVB. Today, I have a very special lady on the podcast, Emma Corbett, also known as Susie Q, who wears many different hats, including the author of the book, The Stripper Next Door, including a co-founder of the FET Ball, including the most incredible yoga teacher and healer, including the most incredible performer who does these incredible things on cruise ships around the world, including a former penthouse pet. I would like to welcome you to the podcast, Emma Corbett, Susie Q. Hi.
Thank you. Hi, Paul.
Welcome. So, Emma, can I call you Emma?
Yes.
Is that okay? What is this with people having different names? So I had Kelly on the podcast right at the beginning, and she's sometimes known as Kelly Phoenix Rose and sometimes known as Kelly O'Brien. And then you're the same. You're sometimes known as Emma Corbett or sometimes known as Susie Q. And I feel I'm missing out a bit that I don't have a stage name.
PVB.
Okay. It's not quite as exciting. But I've got to tell the story of how you first came into my brain orbit. Okay. So it was many years ago. I don't know how many years ago at Billabong Retreat. And I came into the retreat and I heard that a new yoga teacher, retreat host, had started working at the retreat. And I went into the back office and I saw on the back office desk a book called A Stripper Next Door. And I said to the general manager at the time, I said, "Oh, that's an interesting book. Is this a new book we're selling in our shop or something?" And she said, "Oh, no, it's the book that our new yoga teacher has authored." And I was like, fucking cool. Okay. Because, Billabong's relatively a conservative place. And I was like, wow, I really want to meet this multi-talented, multi-hatted woman and interested to see how she's going to teach yoga at the retreat. And that was the start of the journey of getting to know you. And as I've got to know you over the years, I've been really blown away by your wisdom, your freedom of thinking, your ability to hold space for the guests and with the other staff and the other people there. And you've been a beautiful asset to the retreat. As you know, I was a little bit disappointed when you cut back on all your shifts a few years ago to go and do your much better paid cruise ship around the world thing. Thank you for everything that you are. Thank you for being part of Billabong and thank you for coming on the podcast. Okay, where should we start? Let's start with the book.
Okay.
So why did you author a book called The Stripper Next Door?
Probably not the most positive reason to write a book. I was sick of the narratives told about the sex industry and the stripping industry in mainstream media because they're not positive, generally speaking.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to put out my narrative, my story, because I had an overwhelmingly positive experience in that industry. And so I just wanted to share my story and show like an alternative perspective and be like, it can be good.
Okay. So what do you think is the negative perspective that's sometimes told about what women working in the sex industry, erotic industry, whatever we want to call it?
I think there's a lot of judgment and shame around that profession. And there's also a lot of misconceptions around women being, I guess, forced into it. And that is a whole other thing that is unrelated to, people choosing it as a career, or, they're not intelligent or they don't have any other options in life. So it was just to share the opposite of that, which was what I found. And I got to, I guess, basically grow up in this very supportive, open-minded space with these incredibly strong, powerful women around me who were really in control of their bodies and in control of the situations that they were in.
Yeah, I think that's a really powerful message because I absolutely agree. There's this narrative that says if you're working in that kind of industry, it's you're forced into it by some horrendous man who's making you do it, and you don't have any choice, and you're a complete drug addict, and you're only doing it for whatever reasons. And absolutely, my experience actually, in fact, some of the most incredible friends I have now have had experience in that kind of industry, and are incredibly powerful because of that, because of what they've learned, what they've experienced. What would you say were some of your lessons or key learnings around working as a stripper? Is stripper the right word, or should we say erotic dancer?
Any of it. It's fine. Boundaries. And how, so knowing where your boundaries are, number one, and the way you know is when you cross them and you're like, oh, that doesn't feel so good. I'm going to stay on this side of that line. So knowing where your boundaries are and then maintaining them, but in like a very polite way, because often, I was very young. I was a teenager and I was engaging in interactions with much older men. And often they would want things to progress, and I would need to say no, but maintain that relationship because I still wanted to earn money from them. So I still wanted to have a positive time with them.
So no slapping on the face. It was no
get
unless
out.
It's a playful slap.
Yeah, correct.
No.
So it was learning to maintain my boundaries, but still, I guess, saying no with grace. There we go.
Saying no with grace, dare I say, without triggering the guy's ego.
Correct.
The whole chestnut.
Yes.
We were just talking about that, actually, Willow and I, on the last podcast, about how a woman can speak to the man to ask for what she wants and how she can keep her boundaries, and what an art it is. So rather than saying to the guy, don't grab my breast like that, you can say to the guy, this isn't a relationship example, you could say to the guy, hey, I'd really love it if you stroke my breast really gently.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem like a criticism. It doesn't seem like a put down, because we're very delicate, us guys. You know that, don't you?
So because you want to maintain that connection.
And what do you think you've learned about men? Because I presume it was mostly men in the clubs.
Oh, that's everyone's. It was men and women, but okay. Everyone's different. Everyone is completely different, and I think it was. For me, I was drawn to a particular type of customer, and they tended to be the people that I got on with and had a really good connection with and could have a really good conversation with. And I don't know, it's such a powerful skill to be able to speak to anyone about anything. So like people from all walks of life came into that club, and you wanted to try and foster a connection with each and every one of them. And so it was that ability to, I guess, highlight different parts of yourself, which I know some of mine have names like Emma and Susie Q, that highlight different parts of yourself so that you could find common ground with whoever was sitting across from you.
Yeah, beautiful. I think one of the things that's misrepresented for us guys anyway is that sometimes we feel judged because of our desires. our desires to be with women or men, but, our desires to want to watch a beautiful woman doing an erotic dance, our desires to make love in particular ways. And sometimes it feels as men, we have to be a bit ashamed of that there's something wrong with having those desires. And I think, going to a club like that can enable men to be free in their desires to watch this beautiful woman and get turned on by it and stimulated by it without being judged or labeled like, oh my God, you're such a pervert. Oh my God, you're a freak. Oh my God, you're a pedophile. Oh my, all of these labels that can be put onto men. And I think this is partly the reason we're seeing such a porn epidemic, because men are not being held with reverence for those desires and don't have any outlet for them in the main. And so therefore they just turn to porn.
Yeah, I really understand that shame. Like even now I'm still, I think, a little bit cautious. Like even when you discovered my book, you're always like, oh, how are they going to react? Are they going to be okay with this? Am I going to be okay in this situation? It adds like a level of stress and anxiety because you just don't know. It's that judgment that comes from other people and you don't know how they're going to react to you and your natural self.
Yeah. See, what you didn't know at the time is that I had an erotica company back in 2002.
I wish I'd known that.
You didn't have any worry.
I would have been much more relaxed.
Yeah. And this is something I'm really passionate about, Ashley. So the radical expansion movement in the church, as it goes forward and gets launched more later in the year, really wants to promote this idea of sacred sexuality, and that sexuality is a beautiful part of who we are. It's one of the oldest parts of who we are. And unless we have a good relationship with the sexual part of ourselves, we're never going to be able to heal the whole of ourselves. And having this shame over this very fundamental part of who we are is really destructive.
Yeah, I agree. I think people forget that, literally every single person that you see out and about is the result of two people having sex.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, overwhelmingly.
Yeah.
Not always, but there's been that act has been involved in the majority of cases.
Yeah.
Majority of cases, that's what's been involved. And there's this very strong sense of shame around, like you said, this very natural and important part of ourselves.
Where do you think that shame has come from?
I assume from like the Puritan, puritanical basis to our society and Christianity. I assume.
Christianity? No, don't you dare say that about the church.
It hasn't always been the most welcoming to me. My experience is, because of who I am and what I've done, there's definitely an element of judgment from many of those people.
Yeah. Do you think labeling Mary Magdalene as a prostitute back in 300 years AC might have started this process?
May have had something to do with it.
Yeah, so I talk about the Mary Magdalene thing quite a lot. I think we talked about it yesterday when we spoke on the phone. It's something I'm really passionate about because actually if I look back to where I believe a lot of this shame around sexuality and worshipping the divine feminine in both the light side but also that dark, wild, primal divine feminine, which is sometimes seen as the more sexual side, actually stems from the original story of Jesus and Mary. And, my understanding is that Mary was actually a friggin' tantrika, a disciple of Isis, very much trained in this sexual aliveness, and actually taught Yeshua, Jesus, how to inhabit his energetic body, and that they were having basically tantric sex the night before he was crucified, which enabled him to elevate himself to a higher vibrational field, connect to the quantum field so that he didn't suffer in his physical body when he was crucified, and it allowed him to move out of his physical body and move back into his physical body. And that's quite new to me. If you'd have asked me 10 years ago about that I think Jesus was crucified and died and came back to life again, I'd be like, oh no. But I've actually completely changed my perspective about that. And I think what it did, it made Mary very powerful. And that scared a lot of men because it basically enabled people to know they can connect to the divine without any organization, without a big building, without a male priest. And of course, if you can connect to the divine without the institution of the church, then the church is...
What is the point?
What's the point of the church? Or the church as it was.
Yeah.
And so I think, that's really perpetuated over the last 2024 years of putting down the divine feminine, particularly the dark side of the divine feminine, that powerful, raw, witchy feminine that's magical and can create potions and can make amazing things happen and can use that sexual aliveness, the sexual power to manifest things. And therein we have the shaming of sexuality, that sex outside marriage was bad, sex was only for the making of children. Mary Magdalene was a prostitute. The sex witches were burned. And I think we're still living with that shadow right here, right now, in this lived experience, in that how you were worried about how I would perceive that book. And so I'm really passionate to, work with really powerful, liberated women such as yourself to start to change this narrative about sexuality, and it's not something to be ashamed of. So thank you for your bravery. Okay, so we talked yesterday about what we were going to call this podcast. We had a great conversation, and we said we were going to call it Radical Expansion Through Leaning into the Unknown. Yeah. What does leaning into the unknown mean for you?
I was just watching Frozen 2 and singing Into the Unknown. So.
Okay, oh, great. Oh, yeah, tell me. Okay, so tell me about how it could link to Frozen 2, because there's a good message in all these Disney films. And yeah, what does it mean, leaning into the unknown?
I think that discomfort is where a lot of our growth lies. Like, your ability to take on uncomfortable conversations really determines your success in life and the quality of your relationships. I had a coach once tell me, the more you feel like vomiting going into a conversation with someone, the more important that conversation is. And for me, in relationships, that's being willing to take responsibility and apologize for whatever your part is in a conflict or a rupture or something within your connection. And so that willingness to take responsibility is really uncomfortable at first, but the more you do it, the more comfortable you get with that discomfort.
Yes. So that's right. So owning, what you're saying is what's important to lean into the unknown is to own the parts that we play in conflict, in disagreements, when there's challenges in relationship, however uncomfortable that might make us feel because of the emotions that it might bring up. Is that fair? Yeah. Okay. So are you trying to say that other people can't make us feel sad? Other people can't make us feel angry? Other people can't make us feel shame? Are you sure? It's
so hard. Even my partner and I have to because we still say, you made me angry. You did this and it made me feel this way. And we stop and we're like, no, change your language. You cannot say that. You can say I feel or I'm experiencing anger or sadness, but not you made me feel this way. And again, it's that element of personal responsibility.
Yeah. And that's, so in your relationship, is that something that you're both in agreement to, that you can't make the other person that way?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So that's a good starting point, isn't it, in a relationship? Because if you don't have that, if one person's of the belief that the other person can be the cause of all of their pain, all of their suffering, then that's not a great starting point.
Yeah, we have a joke in our relationship that's one of us is just an innocent pile of leaves, not doing anything, just pile of leaves, just minding our own business. And then the other person comes and starts a fire and puts petrol on the pile of leaves, and the innocent pile of leaves had nothing to do with it, rather than, and so, this is a joke around this idea that everything is a co-creation between the two of us. No one is an innocent pile of leaves. No one is the petrol. We're all co-creating within this relationship and in this communication that we're having. It's both of us.
I thought you were going to say that I'm just an innocent pile of leaves and my partner's this horrendous animal that comes and shits and poos and wheezes all over my innocent pile of leaves.
It still works. It's still the metaphor continues.
That works as well, isn't it? Yeah. So tell me about the link to Frozen 2 and what the story is how this links to leaning into the unknown.
That's what it's about. It's about Elsa going into the unknown. She hears like a call and she's following the call, even though she's leaving her, nice, comfortable life. And for me, I guess the analogy in my own life is like leaving that predictable path and, what people expect you to do, going beyond other people's expectations to follow your own heart song, what's right for you, following your dharma. And it's probably one of the hardest things in the world to do is to tune out, the peanut gallery, those hecklers from the Muppets who always have an opinion about what you should be doing when you really know deep down in your heart what it is that you should be doing, whether that's around, conversations or food or things that you're doing with your life. You really want to listen to that heart song that we all have. So you need to get quiet enough to be, which is why places like Billabong are so important, because it means people can actually drop in and tune in to those little messages coming from within us all the time.
Yeah. But perhaps what's happened is that we have been sold this notion of a comfortable life, an easy life where everything's provided, and therefore we haven't really had much experience in going into the discomfort, going into the unknown, that perhaps we would have been in previous ages, previous times. And then for people living in these nuclear families where they've kind of got to do everything themselves, doing anything different from exactly what's happening at this point in time is scary, isn't it?
Yeah, it's because it's unknown.
it's unknown. And I've also heard it's referenced as well that people are often locked in this pattern of negative emotions. And that's what they've become so used to, feeling this way, that everything bad happens to me, that I'm a victim, that it's all bad luck. I'm the one that gets the disease. I get the illness. I get all the perpetrators attacking me. And that becomes the norm for their egoic mind. And then for it perpetuates it. And they get locked in the feeling safe in the feeling a victim.
Yeah, we get addicted to those feelings, whether it's of stress or blame. We get addicted to the hormones and chemicals that are associated with whatever that emotional state is. But for me, it becomes really powerless. So if things are just happening to me, then there's nothing I can do about it. Whereas if I step up and take responsibility for what's going on, whether that's within my health or within my relationships or within my life, then I suddenly have power. If I'm responsible, then I have the power to change things and make it different. Whereas if I'm not responsible, then there's nothing I can do and it's hard to change.
But maybe that's scary. Because maybe then that means, oh shit, I've got to take responsibility, and people are scared, like, oh my God, am I good enough? Can I do this? Have I got the ability? It's much easier if I just blame my upbringing, my trauma, my family, my conditioning, my cultural background, my DNA, the old DNA one. Oh, it's just the genetics, that it makes them powerless. But in some ways, that's comfortable, isn't it? Because they don't have to take any responsibility there.
I'm reminded of Dr. Phil, who's always like, how's that working for you? How's that working for you? And you know what? If that's working for you, great. But if it's not working for you, try something different.
I think that's the point, isn't it? How's that working for you? And you're right. If that's giving you exactly the life you want, you're feeling completely satisfied and fulfilled, you're getting all of the joy, that you know that you're going to get to the end of your life and lying on your deathbed going, yeah, fucking hell, I had a freaking good life. I don't have any freaking regrets. Awesome.
Continue.
No problem. They don't need us then, do they?
Correct.
In fact, if that's you guys, turn off this podcast right now. Stop. You shouldn't even be listening to this podcast. Go home and go and do something else. Yeah. So leaning into the unknown, there's lots of stories in movies, you reckon, about the discomfort of leaning into the unknown. Are there any other movies that you know about with good stories?
Isn't that any movie with the hero's journey in it? Like, The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, like they're leaving their comfort zone and moving out into the unknown. And that's where all the treasures lie. That's where, they discover themselves and the people that are going to support them on their path. And I think the thing is that those main characters probably would have been uncomfortable or just felt an inner, I don't know, nagging or something's not quite right if they were just to have stayed at home and not answered that call.
Yeah. So how do we get people onto this, or not we get people, why do people, some people go onto this path of leaning into the unknown and some people don't, do you think? Is there any advice that you can give to sort of help people lean into the unknown anymore?
Get quiet.
Get quiet. Through what kind of techniques?
Whatever that is for you. Meditation, yoga, some people it's surfing, like, you know, whatever allows you to drop into that quiet space within you.
Yeah, okay. And then the point of that being, you're saying that if you can get into the quiet space and let go of the repetitive thinking mind, that what your true desires will rise up about how you want your life to be and how you want it to unfold?
Yes, but on a smaller scale. So I think of it like there's a tarot deck I have, and the card is, I call it like small child alone in the forest. And it's just it's a small child alone in the forest, and the forest is dark and there's a tiny light and they can just see like the next step. So we're back to Frozen 2. There's a song called The Next Right Step, something like that. Yeah. And so we listen to those, we get quiet and we listen to what inspires us. And I think sometimes where we think that it's going to be like, oh, well, I'm inspired to like marry this person and start this career and start this business. And it's not that. It's much smaller. It's today I'm inspired to listen to this song and make this cup of tea and eat this meal. And, oh, I think I will call this person. And then it's that call that leads to, you know, you being at the train station at the right time and then you meet your soulmate or whatever. And it goes on. So you're just getting these breadcrumbs. You're just getting the next right thing and the next right thing and the next right thing. And it's not this huge, big solution to everything.
It suddenly appears.
Correct. It's just those little crumbs, Hansel and Gretel. It's just the next step and the next step and the next step. But because you're acting from that inspired place, so from that quiet place where inspiration came to you, it feels right and it feels good and it doesn't feel uncomfortable and it feels a little bit uncomfortable. It doesn't feel hard. I often think of like pushing the rock up the hill, you know, we really want this to work no matter what. And we're really pushing from this whole like solar plexus chakra, striving. Masculine energy, make it happen. Yeah. We're really
kind of rip our anus like a straw.
Correct. Whereas if we embrace this more feminine energy of just allowing, yes, things are still work and you're still taking action, but it's inspired action and things flow and it works out.
Beautiful. Yeah, in my book, actually, which isn't quite out yet, it's going to be out soon. So I'm going to catch up with you and have a book too. There's this, at the end, actually, there's a section called the 10 Commandments, but commandments is crossed out and it's like gentle suggestions for living. And the number 2 is just get started. And the quote at the beginning of that is a Lao Tzu quote, which is a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. And I think that's exactly what you were saying. It's like, don't expect it all to be laid out on a map for exactly how you're going to get to your desired outcome or place, but just keep taking those little steps.
The next right step.
That's the next right step, which is in line with your intentions, with your heart. And as you said, to do that, you have to have a certain level of stillness, like the Viktor Frankl quote, between stimulus and response, there is a space, or there can be a space, and in that space lies our opportunity to choose our response, and in our response lies our growth and freedom. But if there's not that space between stimulus and response, because we're so busy, we're so locked up in our conditioned patterns, we just keep repeating the same pattern again, because we don't have the spaciousness that can be created through stillness, as you say. So we have to create that space, set our intentions, and then just take little decisions one at a time, I suppose. Yeah. Okay, the thing I wanted to talk to you about, we talked about yesterday, was narcissism. I knew I was going to bring it up because this is something I'm quite passionate about for various reasons. It's something quite close to my heart. And we had a conversation at the phone about narcissism, about what is a narcissist. Does this thing called a narcissist really exist? Because it's something that's quite in the ether at the moment, isn't it? You see it referenced quite a lot on social media. You see people saying it, particularly about their ex-partners, is quite common. Oh my God, they were such a narcissist. What's your understanding of this word called narcissist, and do you think they even exist?
Well, yeah, I'm not a psychologist or qualified in any way, preface. I think it comes down to truth, doesn't it? So what is true? And something that is true, actual truth, is something that is true across all times and in all places and in all situations. And it's like another term that we hear a lot is toxic, the toxic person. But are they, or is that just your opinion? So it's people putting forward their opinion as truth, because if somebody's showing up to you as toxic, then that's a co-creation between the two of you. You are not an innocent pile of leaves, and you're part of that interaction. It's something that you're creating together. And I guarantee that whoever this toxic person is in your life, if they have a whole bunch of people that think they're amazing, that love them and think they're the most incredible human ever. So it's not universally true that they're a toxic person. They're toxic towards you, but that's something that you're creating together. Your way of communicating is triggering their trauma, which is triggering your past trauma, and so it goes on until you create a death spiral. Yes,
I know about death spirals. So that's really interesting, because I think that's the point. So you'd say it's only true if it's true for all people in all times, in all places, and then you could label someone, okay, you're toxic.
It's true.
If you're narcissist, if it's true in all of those different relationships, but on an individual basis, what you're saying is that two people enter into a relationship and they might trigger each other in such a way.
That's what we're doing in relationships, isn't
That's what we're doing.
Showing us where we need to look.
Showing us where we need to look and where we need to grow and where we need to lean in.
Because if someone's triggering you, they're showing you where or how you're letting go of your peace still.
So do you believe that two people, if they're both completely prepared to do the work and lean in, that any two people can be fully compatible? Or do you think actually just some people are not compatible even though they both might be prepared to lean in and do the work? Or is it that relationships only don't work when one or both of the parties aren't prepared to do the work?
But what about it's at different times as well? Like maybe we're with this person for a particular period of our life and a particular set of lessons. And once we've learned that, perhaps we move on to another person. Right. I think, it's difficult to find someone who's growing, with you at the exact same rate on the exact same trajectory.
Yeah. Okay. So you're thinking that maybe regardless of both people are prepared to lean in, there are times and places where just relationships have come to their natural course, their natural end, and the people are moving at different speeds and different directions.
Yeah, and I think that's true for, friendships as well as romantic relationships. Oh, yeah.
Okay. So let's just talk about friendships then. Okay. So it's an interesting point, isn't it? About, do you hold on to friendships because you've known them for 20 years and you've got some kind of obligation? Or do you say, actually, that's not really serving me. I've moved away from those people. I'm going to move into new friendships.
We're going to move into uncertainty rather than staying with what's known when it's not necessarily serving you. And the way we know is, after we've been with that person, do we feel good or do we feel drained?
Yeah. And so how do you know then? How do you know whether you should stay in a relationship? So sorry, is that what you just said? Basically, that when you're in contact with them, do you feel good? Do you feel drained? That's the deciding factor.
I think it's more complicated than that. But I do think it starts
Tell me the secret formula, please.
It starts with just getting quiet and finding that space of stillness within you and operating from there.
Yeah. So how do you find quiet in your life?
Yoga and meditation works for me. Okay. I know that it's not for everybody, okay. But for me, my daily yoga and meditation practice, and also I'm very into yoga nidra. I do that a lot.
Right.
The yoga of napping.
The yoga of napping. And is this what I saw on your podcast intake form, that you're created this yoga nidra thing? Was that
No,
I
teach on I've done a bunch of teacher trainings in yoga nidra.
Yeah.
I run workshops in it. No, I think you're talking about I teach on a yoga teacher training as well.
Yeah. So you said two things. You said yoga and meditation is not for everyone. Why would you say it's not for everyone?
Oh, okay. Let me rephrase. Okay. Sitting like this is not for everybody.
It's just us more spiritual people. Should we keep that for the elite? Spiritual, no?
No, I think whatever puts you in that state of flow, but where you're able to be with yourself. Like I know I have a lot of people say things like, oh no, watching TV, that's my meditation. And I'm like, not really.
Okay, why not? Why is that not meditation?
It's the difference between relaxation and conscious relaxation, which is why I'm very into yoga nidra, because we're looking at complete emotional, mental, physical relaxation with that awareness. Because ultimately what we want to do when we're meditating is look at that, what's coming up. What are these parts of ourselves that keep coming up? And, only when we notice can we choose something different. So it all begins with awareness. And for me, a meditation and mindfulness practice is really helpful in cultivating that sense of awareness.
Yeah, and watching the latest show on Netflix is not a use.
It is important.
Is it? I don't know about that. Is it?
I don't think you can say what's right or wrong for another person. No. I think, everyone knows what's right for them.
Yeah.
My partner really likes watching horror movies.
Okay.
They don't feel good for my nervous system.
Yeah.
They don't feel good for me, but they do feel good for him. Yeah. And so it's that whole thing of it's Deepak Chopra, 8 billion people, 8 billion paths.
Okay.
And everyone's path is completely different. And just because something really works for you and you think it's amazing for you doesn't mean it's right for everybody. Like I would love to sit here and be like, yes, every woman should be a stripper. It's amazing. Yeah. It is so good for your sense of self-esteem and your body confidence, but that's not right for everybody.
Well, I don't know about that actually. And maybe not everyone, but I know there's a big movement around at the moment I've just seen this big movement anyway. I don't know whether it's just because of who I know and who I follow, but I've suddenly been exposed to this, lots of women running these women's empowerment retreats, women's empowerment workshops. And a big part of that often is giving women the confidence to be in their beautiful, erotic, wild nature. And to move in a really beautiful, sexy way and to do that in front of the mirror and to see themselves as these beautiful, sensual, loving, wild creatures and to lean into what I think would be called the dark feminine, which is this kind of raw, sexual, primal part of the female perspective. And from what I understand is the women I know who have gone through those programs, they come out of it much stronger and much more liberated and much more powerful and have the shame removed of being in that, because somehow there's this belief that if they do perform in a sensual, erotic way, that will be labeled as, you're a slut or you're a prostitute or, you're somehow some negative connotation. So maybe it is not for everyone, but maybe it could be a really important part in helping women freely express themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we're learning to become accepting of those parts of ourselves that we've been taught are shameful.
Yeah.
And it's so when we have that complete acceptance of every part of ourselves, then we're feeling whole and in contact with who we are and our true nature. And I think that's why, I don't know, from a very young age, I was really drawn to like the fetish community and the kink community and the swingers community, because they are the most open-minded, respectful, open-hearted people that you'll ever come across. And you're just okay, just as you are.
Yeah, everything's welcome. And when it's done consciously with clear communication of boundaries and consent, which those communities are very strong about, aren't they? Isn't that the thing? And I've only just been exposed to the conscious kink community and very, very lightly just in the last few months. I never even realized it was the thing. I was falling into the trap of thinking that the kink community were perverts, basically. I think I still probably believe that up until a few years ago. I didn't really understand it. It's not something I had exposure to. And then through meeting people who actually teach conscious kink, I actually realized that actually what a self-development process it can be for people to understand that A, pleasure and pain are two sides of the same coin. It's actually the same nerve endings that are being stimulated, and the mind is then perceiving in a particular way. And so it enabled people to really lean in within the BDSM community of this thing called pleasure and pain, and what does that mean, and what is a physical sensation, and what can I tolerate, and when do I judge it painful, and when do I judge it pleasurable, and is there even a difference between those, or is it just made up? As well as leaning into the submissive and the dominant, the D and the S, of that, of what does it mean to be dominant over someone? What does it mean to be submissive over someone? Can I lean in to that which I don't normally do? How does that feel to surrender to someone and give them the power and the trust? And all of these dynamics are playing out, all these human dynamics are playing out in the conscious kink community in a conscious, deliberate way so those people can learn from them. I mean, should we start teaching kink to kids at school to help them,
Consent, yes.
Consent, for sure.
Which would be the start of any. Yeah. So bondage, discipline, sadism, masochism is BDSM. And Studio Kink is a really wonderful educational facility here in Sydney that does things like conscious rope work. And even they get me in sometimes to teach like yoga and mindfulness prior to sessions so that people are quiet and tuned into that quiet space, because they need to be really focused on the person that they're working with and really interconnected with each other's energy to notice what's going on for the other person. Again, it's that awareness. It all begins with awareness.
Do we think we need a different word than kink? Do you think kink has got so much baggage to it that when you say kink or kinky, it's so linked to kind of being a pervert or being weird? Do you know what I mean? Whereas my understanding, a lot of the kink stuff does not necessarily have to include like sexual penetration and things like that, and very often doesn't actually. No. And it's much more than that. It's about leaning into who you are and what your desires are and all of those things and how you inhabit your conscious mind. Is kink the right word, do you think?
I think words just have whatever meaning we ascribe to them and whatever we all agree on. So let's just agree that kink refers to conscious kink.
Yeah. It's a bit like the word yoga, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's got so much baggage for so many different people. I often don't use the word yoga when I'm doing teaching sometimes because, it's just you got to undo 50 years of cultural baggage because people think it's all about postures.
Yeah, and even when I go in to teach at Billabong, like I never mention that I'm a circus performer. Right. Don't even. No. You literally see people mentally get up and leave the room, like I'm out kind of thing. So yeah, no, don't talk about just we're just gonna mobilize a little bit, like just sort of.
What about stripper?
Definitely not.
Definitely not.
You just don't know how people are going to react. And also, I mean, that space is about them dropping in to themselves. And me being a stripper has nothing to do with them dropping into the quiet space within themselves.
No, it doesn't, but it can be inspirational in showing how a woman can really drop into the unknown, be confident, run the risk of being labeled, all kinds of different names, and then how you can grow through that process. So it is part of your story, though, isn't it? Which can sometimes be important to share as a teacher. Maybe not.
I haven't been that much.
It's because I've got this same dilemma as well with Billabong, which is relatively conservative, a yoga, meditation, mindfulness, nutrition, self-care, which are all beautiful things. We want people to be able to come there and feel safe and not feel too edgy. And that's really beautiful. And I value that so much. And I don't want to do anything that upsets that. Whilst at the same time, I've been doing that for 20 years now. And, my journey has moved on and I want to lean into deeper work of exploring all of these different areas like boundaries and consent and pain and pleasure and consciousness and psychedelic medicine and sacred sexuality and fasting retreats and silent retreats and dark room immersion retreats and all of this, edgier stuff. But I don't want to scare the Billabong audience and the Billabong customers into kind of thinking that Billabong is going to change just because Paul's gone on a different journey. So at the moment, we're launching this new online wellness platform, which I've got that one thing. And then on the other side, I've got this whole radical expansion, spiritual, sexually awakened movement. And I was trying to merge them into the same thing. And now recently I've just decided, actually, I've just got to keep them completely separate.
Emma and Susie Q. You have different things, different names.
Susie Q. Okay, so Paul Von Bergen can be the founder of Billabong Retreat, and PVB can be the pastor of the new sacred, spiritual, psychedelic
And they're not the
movement.
same thing. And the people that are being drawn to Billabong are being drawn there for a particular reason. Like the people that are being drawn over here are being drawn here for a particular reason. Yeah. Everybody's got their own path, and there are many paths,
many
the same place.
So we talked about, so you said, the Deepak Chopra quote, like 8 billion people, 8 billion different paths. So if I wasn't on a path, I'd hear that and I might think, oh shit, how do I know what my path is going to be? Who's going to tell me? Where's the teacher that's going to tell me what my path should be? So is there not a role then for a teacher telling a student, okay, this is the path you need to be on?
Oh, I don't think a teacher knows your path for you. Only you know your path. The teacher can help teach you practices so that you can get quiet.
Okay. And so so you're saying all the teacher can do is help you having practices so you get quiet, and then your own path will unfold through leaning into feeling what feels right for you, understanding your dharma, and therefore trying to understand what your role is in this lifetime that's in alignment with your heart and your values.
That's what I feel. It's like the 8 limbs of yoga. We've got our yamas, niyamas, so ways of being with others, ways of being with self, breath work, body work, and then concentration. So we've got is that 5? I wasn't counting maths.
Yeah, there's 8 obviously limbs.
Great. Yep. First 5 are taught.
Yes.
Last 3 are caught.
Oh, I don't know this one. Okay, first 5 are taught, last 3 are caught. So the last 3 are dharana, dhyanam, and samadhi, aren't they? Okay.
Yeah. You find them for yourself. No one can teach you that. I can teach you a meditation practice, but I can't teach you the state of meditation.
Yeah. And then, okay, so that for me is the second Yoga Sutra. So, oh my God. So first Yoga Sutra, Atta Yoga Anushasanan. No, it's the first one actually.
No, first one is and now something yoga, and then it's yoga chitta vritti nirodha.
Yeah, well, no, it is the first one actually, because the first one, Atta Yoga Nusasana, and that says that pay attention. Yoga is an experiential learning modality. It's, and that says to me is what you've just said. It's caught, not taught. You learn it through experiencing it and practicing it, about how you inhabit your conscious mind, how you inhabit your divine being, how you pay attention to stuff. No one can do that for you. You can read all the books, you've got to practice it.
I love quotes.
Yeah.
Here it is.
Okay, cool.
You can't find it by seeking.
Okay.
But only those who seek will find it.
Oh, you can't find it for seeking, but only those who seek will find it. Yeah, and this is really about what being on the path, isn't it? Whatever being on the path means, of being committed to personal development. What do we say? What percentage of the population, adult population in Australia, do you reckon has a serious commitment to personal development?
You brought this up there. I've never thought about it. No, I have no idea.
No idea. I don't reckon it's that high. I don't. And it's not a blame game. I'm not saying, I just think so many people, mainly men, are so caught up in survival, are so caught up into just trying to do their best, provide for their beautiful family or themselves or their kids, work the job often that they don't really like, try and keep up with the friends, try and have some kind of fun social life, that there doesn't feel like there's any spaciousness in that life for personal development, whether that's true or not true.
And maybe that's not for them in this lifetime.
Depends how it's working for them.
How's that working for you?
How's that working? And this is what I find. So when I've did a lot of men's work last year. I haven't done much men's work.
I haven't done a lot of men's work.
Yeah, I'm tend to work more with the women. It's just how it seems to be. Billabong's all about women, really, isn't it? I mean, there's not many guys that come through. There's a couple, sprinkling. But I did do men's work last year. So I went on a Mankind Project men's retreat with about 80 men, which was really awesome. And then I joined a men's group and watched how that men's group got started and facilitated, and actually became really good friends with Mike Britton, who runs and sets up all these men's groups. And then I took both of my boys independently on a boys to men initiation 5-day mountain remote retreat. So, overall, that's like, whatever, 20 days of men's work, being around men, hearing men, listening to their challenges. And I tell you, from my experience of exposure to those 150 guys or something, the majority of men, it's not working for them. It's not. The jobs are not fulfilling. They feel undervalued. They don't know how to do the right thing. All they know how to do is work harder. That's like, okay, if something's not working in my relationship with my wife, I just need to work harder. I just need to provide for more. It doesn't matter about me, my health, my wellness, my mental state, my values in life. I've just got to work harder, and that will give the results to make me a good guy. I think guys are just beautiful, loving, kind creatures that just want to serve the divine feminine and do what's right. And often they don't have the training or the experience to know that there's more to serving the divine feminine or their partners than just working harder.
Striving more.
And that was a big realization for me, I think. And I don't really talk about my relationship too much, and I'm not going to. But, part of what I've done over the last 20 years building Billabong has been a level of busyness, of staying busy. Okay, I'm providing this, I'm creating this for the family, I'm creating this thing that the family can have that can bring us abundance and bring us security. And that was definitely the driving priority for me. And the reflection that I've had is, well, okay, that was all well and good, and I did it from a good place, from a good heart, but maybe that busyness made me neglect my partner's needs at that time for presence or time or stillness. And it's a hard realization to come to terms with, that you can do something from your heart with love and kindness, yet that can still damage someone. And we're not taught this shit. No one's taught this stuff. No one's telling the blokes this, and so they're struggling. They're at a loss. They don't know what to do.
I also had, my own studio for a number of years, and my relationship suffered because I was so caught up in the business and trying to support us and make it work and this kind of thing that I wasn't present. I was always on the phone. We'd be traveling somewhere, and I'd be just trying to get to an internet cafe back in the day to try and sort something out.
Showing your age now.
Yeah, I know. To sort something out. And it's that thing of operating from that masculine energy, solar plexus chakra, push kind of thing, rather than dropping into that more feminine energy, sacral chakra area, and just allowing. But again, that's uncomfortable and uncertain and leaning into the unknown.
Yeah. And maybe part of the problem comes from this movement into nuclear families, where we've moved away from the village. Back in the village, we would always have somewhere to live. Guaranteed. There was always a family compound. You'd never have to worry, where am I going to live? There was always a place for you to live in the village, and the village would always provide your food. So your basic needs were always taken care of. And sure, you can specialize, you can become a blacksmith, you can do this, you can work in the fields, but there was always probably that spaciousness to find yourself. And I think now, as we've moved to this, we have to do everything ourselves, got to pay the mortgages, pay the rent, earn the job, pay the kids' school fees or whatever.
And be role models and teach our children.
Be role models and teach our children what to be able to produce and make money.
Only two of you, or maybe two of you.
Yeah.
Whereas when we had access to the village, we had so many more people who were sharing their experience and wealth of knowledge with the young people.
So could it be that as a race, as a species, we have completely fucked up and gone in completely the wrong direction of this nuclear family, moving into cities and stuff, that's going to destroy us emotionally, physically, mentally? Certainly if you look at rising rates of disease, mental health, illness and stuff. And the only way to really undo this problem is completely change how the fabric of society is constructed.
There are also a lot of very good things about living in small families and cities. You can't just, I don't think it's so black and white.
Okay. So what is the solution? Tell me, Emma.
Get quiet.
Get quiet. Is that always the solution?
For me, I think we spoke about that Rumi quote yesterday, like you chucked back a Star Wars quote. So I said, beyond right and wrong, there is a field and I'll meet you there. And it's not so black and white. This is bad because it's also good. Like, the polarity, or the yin yang, there's always a little bit of darkness in the white and a little bit of whiteness in the dark. And then you gave me the Sith Lord quote.
Yes, which is only Sith Lords believe in absolutes.
Yeah, and it's not that simple. It's listening to what's right for you, because for some people, like if I'd come to you 20 years ago and tried to like suggest some of these things to you, you would have told me to get stuffed.
Yeah.
So I think, some people are in a space where they're open to these kind of things and some people are not, and that's okay.
Yeah.
They've got to be able to do what they want to do as well. So just like, I don't know, I guess I was seeking that acceptance and non-judgment for my lifestyle choices. At the same time, I can't be non-accepting and judgmental of other people for their lifestyle choices.
Of course, absolutely. So we have to be accepting of all the lifestyle choices that people make. But if they come to us and they're suffering and they say, I'm not happy because it's not working for them, then it's okay to maybe invite them to reflect on their lifestyle choices. How are your lifestyle choices serving you? How are your lifestyle choices serving your partner, your friends, your family, your health, your wellness, your joy de vivre in life? How much pleasure are you getting? Yeah. Do you think people are getting enough pleasure?
I can only speak for myself, can't I?
Are you getting enough pleasure?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I have a very magical life.
What does pleasure mean to you?
When my cells are singing a song of joy.
When your souls...
My cells.
Oh, your cells. I thought your souls.
Oh, also my soul?
I was like, how many? I thought you said your souls. I was like, how many souls do you have? Whoa. When your cells are singing a song of joy. Wow. I had this beautiful experience on Monday. I booked in for, it's called an Anmo massage. Anmo, it's a form of a Hawaiian tantric massage or something. And so I booked in for this. It was like 2 hours, and it's a sensual massage, but it's not sexual. So there's no genital touch, but you're completely naked. So you're in kind of surrender, and the therapist is like, it's playful. So she's, like tickling you really beautifully, sensually, and then using like blowing and then going into more firm techniques and brushing hair over your body and stuff. It's just really, really beautiful and sensual and playful and nurturing and just yummy. I had like all tingles all over my body. I felt so loved and seen and all of those things. And that's actually the first time I've ever had a massage like that in my 53 years professionally that I've paid for. And I think that level of touch and receiving that level of pleasure, which is non-sexual pleasure. Often when you say pleasure, people immediately go to sex, don't they? Genital touch.
Orgasm.
Orgasm. But there's so much pleasure that can be had without genital touch. And I think people are missing this. It's something I'm really passionate about teaching and spreading the word of non-sexual pleasurable touch. And in fact, I actually used Toto. So I did a whole sensual video series on different types of pleasure and touch, didn't we, Toto? And we did nurturing touch, which was like, oh yeah, there you go, Toti. And then we did sensual touch, which is like, yeah, like rubbing your hands. We did remedial touch, which is more pressurizing. And I don't demonstrate sexual touch on Toto because that would be inappropriate.
Well, you haven't had consent.
And I haven't had consent. Although sometimes she does flip over and spread her legs wide. Some people might think that was consent. But yes, that's definitely not something that's going to be happening. Emma, thank you so much for having this beautiful conversation.
Thank you.
Talking about all these different things, from stripping to narcissism to leaning into our edges to finding our stillness. That's really the big one, isn't it? I wonder if we should rename this one. Radical expansion through finding or leaning into the stillness.
Get quiet.
Get quiet. Thank you you so much. Thank you for all your gifts. Thank you for all the time you spent doing it, Billabong. Thank you for all the beautiful gifts I know you give on the cruise ships. Thank you for writing your book. Thank you for being liberated. Thank you for being a shining example of what a strong, powerful, courageous, wise woman can be. Till next time.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you. Bye. Hey. Hey. Hug. Mwah. Thank you, my darling. Thank you. Thank you. You have been listening to Radical Expansion with PVB. All the information about how to connect with this week's guests will be in the show notes. Till next time, love you guys.